You have heard of the Chronicles of Narnia, but there is no white witch here, and there are only sons of Adam and daughters of Eve. You have read or likely skimmed 1st and 2nd Chronicles, but there is more than just genealogies and history here. These are the Stanley Chronicles. They are the adventures of Chris and Daisy Stanley, which includes their 4-year-old son CJ and their dog Toby. Chris and Daisy are a Match.com success story that covers 3 continents, 2 diverse cultures, and 1 amazing marriage. If you join the journey, you'll quickly discover that their relationship is designed by God and implemented by 2 imperfect people that try to have fun as they serve God and build both their relationship and their family. Their stories are usually wild, often silly, sometimes outlandish, periodically extreme. They contain some tragedy, but are always entertaining. Here are their chronicles. Hi, and welcome back to the Stanley Chronicles. I'm Chris.
I'm Daisy. And thank you so much for tuning in tonight. And thank you so much for just staying with us as we share our story.
Yeah, if you missed our introduction, we're the Stanleys, and our desire is to share our testimony, share our story of all the various things that we've gone through. Mm-hmm. And in this particular episode, we're going to start with where our story actually began. We began on Match.com. So we're going to dive into how we met and what brought us to where we are today. So what led us to Match.com? Well, I think the reality is that for each of us, we have our own story as to what led us to Match.com. And looking back over our dating history, there's kind of a lot there, but at the same time, not a lot there. For me, we didn't meet until we were actually in our
mid-30s.
Yeah, in our mid-30s. And so there's, a lot of time up until then. I didn't really date much. I didn't date in high school, college, not really. Kind of towards the end of college, I got into a relationship that is one that I took seriously, but it was very on again, off again. We kept starting and stopping, and I found out much later in life that relationship really just was a game for the other person. And I don't want to say that she took advantage of me necessarily, but it really just was absolutely a game. And she wasn't in it for the same reasons I was. And the other relationship that I took seriously was a bit of a long distance relationship. So that kind of by itself had its own challenges, and we just kind of realized that we weren't the right person for each other. And in between all of that, prior to those relationships, I didn't really date much at all. And then after them, I did finally decide that I was in ministry. I wasn't making a lot of money. And the biggest challenge for me in dating as a whole was that I didn't really feel like there was a lot of women in my circle of influence that were my age, that were single, and that were interested in dating. And so I kind of looked out and said, where do I go? Because I wasn't interested in going to the local bar or a dance club. That's just not my forte. And so I finally resorted to online dating. I started out actually on eHarmony, thinking that was going to be really an ideal situation because of how rigorous their screening process is and the way they link people. And I did end up meeting up with a few different women, and went out a couple of times, but really most of those relationships didn't go past a second or third date. A couple of them actually turned into some good friendships, but nothing serious heading towards marriage. Then I got to a point when I was in my 30s where I really looked at God and really felt like my dating relationship was really a challenge for me, because I really had the desire to get married. I had the desire for companionship and the relationship and every aspect of that relationship. And I just wasn't finding anything that was the long term, that was the real deal. And again, just in my situation, there just wasn't a lot of dating options that I was interested in. And so I looked at God and I just told him, which, it's always interesting when you end up trying to tell God something. Usually it doesn't go very well. But I tried to tell God that, you know what, you've got to either solve this situation and provide me the woman that you have for me as a partner, as a wife and a spouse, or you've got to remove all these desires, and I've just got to learn how to be happy as a single guy. And I joked around about joining a monastery, that type of thing, because I really didn't know what else, what other alternatives were out there. Mm-hmm. And so I finally just really decided that I've got to really focus on trying to find the right person and utilize the tools that were available. And so I kind of called it quits on eHarmony. That wasn't working out. I don't think I completely closed out my account, but I stopped the subscription. And then I decided to switch over to Match.com and just see if there was different people there. And so that's how I landed on Match.
So how I ended up on Match, I was approaching my mid-30s, and I was just tired of the dating game. I was not the type of girl that would go out, party, clubs, and bar scene and things like that. So I heard a lot about online dating and eHarmony and Match. And so when Match was running a special, I decided to take advantage of it to see what was out there and maybe expand my my horizon and see where I can meet people and see where it would take me. That's why I decided to join Match, and I met this handsome guy.
And that's how we ended up on Match.
So what attracted me in my husband's profile, I want to say the one thing that was big for me was the fact that he was a Christian, and the way he was describing himself and some of the picture that was on there really caught my attention, because for me as a Christian, being married to somebody who shared the same faith as me was very important. And in the past, I just kind of put that in the back burner. But this time, I really wanted to make it a priority for me. So the fact that he was proclaiming his faith out there and making sure that the person that he was looking for shared the same faith, that was number one on my priority list. And so the other thing that was a concern, the other concern was the fact that I was not American. I was not born here. I was a foreigner. So I don't know if I didn't know how he would feel about the fact that I was not a U.S. citizen or African American born and raised here, because of the fact that I came from Africa. I have my own culture and things like that. So I didn't know if he was open to that and he would be accepted of my culture. Because that's something that, it's me and it's who I am. So if he was going to show interest, he would have to show also accept who I am as a person and my culture also. So those are the two elements that were very important for me.
Well, and you were a bit concerned about the distance
Yeah, the
for our
distance.
relationship.
So because I didn't know where he, where I knew where P was, obviously, but I've never heard about his, the town that it was living at. So just wanted to make sure that I wouldn't have to drive hours and hours to to meet. So I looked it up, and when I found out it was maybe 45 or 30 minutes away from where I was like, okay, that's doable.
Well, and what attracted me to Daisy is, first and foremost, I mean, she's absolutely beautiful, and she's gorgeous, and so that's obviously going to grab my attention. And then actually looking at her profile and seeing who she really was, just like Daisy said, the first thing for me is I wanted a Christian woman, a woman that would be a partner in my spiritual relationship and in our marriage, if it led to that. And then beyond that, I mean, she's extremely highly educated. She's lived on 3 continents, speaks 3 languages, and so all of these things are like extremely intriguing. It's like, wow, what? And that was one of my first questions when we ended up talking on the phone is how did you end up living on 3 continents at your age already? And so all of that was like really intriguing, but at the same time, some of those things were actually the concerns I had. She was so highly educated. She has such diverse cultural backgrounds. And is she really going to be interested in me? I grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania, and not quite the same as living in Paris, France, or in the U.S. After being in Paris or Congo and just traveling around. So I was like, is she really going to be interested in 2 master's degrees? That's pretty significant. So, I mean, I've had some master's level education myself, but 2 degrees is quite a bit. And so that was kind of my concern. But outside of that, I was quite intrigued and really wanted to get a chance to know her better. So our Match.com experience started by just using their platform to exchange messages back and forth. And I know I was really excited because when I sent Daisy a message, she had responded, felt like almost right away. It was just a few hours later, right?
Yes, it was just a few hours later. I remember at the time, I was actually in Atlanta. I went to a women's conference, and it was a holiday weekend. So yeah, I was very excited when I got the message.
Yeah, so we exchanged messages for a couple days, but the Match.com platform is a little bit limiting in what you can do with the messages, and of course that's for security reasons, and it's very wise, but we just got to the point where we realized we at least wanted to get to know each other a little bit better. So I asked if it was all right if we exchanged personal email addresses. Yes. Mm-hmm. That way we send longer messages and just really get to know each other a little tiny bit better through regular email. And we exchanged the emails. It was about 2 weeks, and we emailed
almost every day.
Yeah, well, so I'd send an email, and then a day later she'd write back, and we'd go ping pong back and forth. So one of us was typing the email every day, and the emails, they just got a little bit longer each time, and the questions got a bit more personal. And I think, I don't want to speak for you, but I think we both just really got even more interested in each other. I know I certainly was like, wow, that's a great answer, and now I want to know even more.
Even more, yes.
Give me some more
That's exactly
details.
how I felt with him. The more we were talking, the more I was asking questions, and the more I wanted to know more about him. And every answer that he was giving was, to me, was like a check on my on my list, my wish list. So that's the reason why I wanted to find out more and keep talking. So
Yeah, and so after about 2 weeks, it just seemed like the emails were getting long, and that anxiousness of I want to hear the reply was starting to feel a tiny bit old. And so I just put it out there. I said, let me see if she's all right if I give her a call on the phone. And, worst case, she says no, and we just keep emailing, which I would have been fine with. But so I asked if I could give her a phone number, and what I did is I went ahead and provided mine just to try to, from my perspective, do the best I could to put her at ease from a kind of a security standpoint, and not that I'm the stalkerish type. So here's my number, and if you're okay, what's your number? And
Yeah, he gave me his number, and then I think the same time I also gave you my number at the same time.
well, you replied with
Yeah,
your,
I replied with my number, hoping that I wouldn't be the first to call.
no, I only gave you the numbers again so I'd put you at ease. It was
Yes.
my intent to actually call you, so I did. I gave you a call.
And then we fixed the date. I think we fixed the date for you to call me.
Slow your roll. Oh, set the date to call.
Yes, to
Yes,
call me.
I thought you were gonna try to jump into
No.
our first date already. I was like, wait a minute.
No, because at the time I think I was working.
You were working nights.
Yeah, I was working night. So
And I was retail, and so my schedule was different every day. I worked days and nights, or days and evenings throughout the week, so it was kind of crazy. So yeah, we scheduled our first call, and it went great. It was just really nice to actually be able to hear her voice, what she sounded like, and just really kind of reaffirm a lot of the stuff that we had been emailing back and forth. And
I believe I asked you the same question over the phone, just to make sure that the answer did not change, to just double check, because you never know. I didn't know him at the time, so I just wanted to make sure that whatever he wrote on the website was still the same, and he stuck to the same answer that he gave me on the website, on the email. Yes.
yeah, so our conversation was great, and we just really felt the same way after our first phone call as we did the first couple of emails. Is we just want to know each other more and just keep this going. So we continue the phone calls for basically it was 2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah.
And again, we probably every other night we spoke, and then towards the end of the 2 weeks, we were talking just about every day at the very least, and exchanging text messages here and there as well. And then at the end of the 2 weeks, it just really felt like our conversations were so natural, and we really were getting to know each other really well. Now, I don't want to say we knew everything about each other.
No, we didn't.
Just that
enough.
in the 4 weeks, if you include the emails, in that month, we just really got to the point that we knew we really wanted to know more. We felt very comfortable with a lot of what we knew about each other, and just decided, it's time to take it to the next step. And so I asked her if she would be interested in going out, and we set up a time, and then I proposed that we went to the Cheesecake Factory. I proposed that because it's pretty close to where we both, it's a good in-between of where we both were living at the time. And then I like that Cheesecake Factory because it's obviously a very public place, but then it's attached to a very large mall, and that mall just adding a whole lot more public space, because I was really concerned that she was worried about being at risk in some way. And so whatever I could do to try to put that at ease, I tried to head that off at the front. And so I put that out there, and you were quite open to it.
Yeah, I was open because it was an area that I knew. So I was comfortable, and I knew that if something went wrong, I could just jump in my car and and leave. So I didn't have to drive hours. I was just maybe 30 minutes from where I was, and I made sure that my friend knew where I was going, just to be safe. And I I looked him up first because even though he, I knew who he was at the time because of the, his profile or match, but I did my own search, Google or any other,
Platform that you could use.
platform that I could use just to make sure that he was who he was, and I looked at pictures to make sure that there was no fishy things out there. So I knew, and once I did my own research and then I felt comfortable, then that's when I accepted his our first date.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're not going to get in this episode, we're not going to get into the details of our first date because it is definitely worthy of its own episode. Our first date was absolutely incredible, but the conversation is something I don't think very many people would have ever experienced. And so we're going to make our first date its own episode. But yeah, our experience on Match was a really positive one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we both approached it in a really healthy manner, that we were using it as a means to meet another person.
Not
And
dating.
then, right. And then
Yeah.
once we met the person, what can we do to try to get to know as much as we can up front before meeting in person, and just try to be as healthy and safe as we possibly could. And it just really was a great experience for us.
Yeah, it was definitely a great experience for me too, and looking back now, I'm so thankful that it happened. I'm so thankful that I took the chance to give him the opportunity to email me or text me, and just me also to join Match and expand my horizon.
So let me ask you this, babe, because I think this would be a beneficial question. Looking back at our relationship from our first communication on Match up until our first date that month, is there anything that you would go back and do differently if you could?
No.
No, and truthfully,
No.
I feel the same exact way. It just was a natural progression of the relationship. I don't think either of us felt like we were forcing the next step. It just was natural for us. And
Yeah, everything from the moment that we started talking just felt natural, because I remember when we first started dating, I told you that it felt like we knew each other forever. And even the way our family came together, and it was just ordained by God. That's the only thing that I can say.
yeah, absolutely. So the concerns that I had about our relationship at this point were really nothing different than from the very beginning. Still wanting to make sure, is she really interested in me? Or am I just filling up her Friday nights and her weekends for, again, she's so highly educated and she's got such a cultural background. Is she really going to be satisfied with me? One of the biggest things that I was looking for in a partner, and still to this day, what I want and what God has given me is a woman that loves me for who I am. Despite any of the bad, regardless of all the good stuff, it's just loves me for who I am. I don't have to pretend or put on a front. I can just be who I am and be loved. And so I just wanted to make sure, was she really in it for me? and what I brought to the table. And so that was really probably my biggest concern. And then in the back of my mind, I think this is going to be one of your concerns as well, but actually at this point, you didn't tell me about your green card status, so I didn't know that. Later on in the relationship, that becomes a little bit of a concern. You know, was she just looking for a green card from me? But prior to our first date, I didn't actually know that. I just presumed that she was already a citizen. And then the distance was a little bit of a concern for me. I mean, we're a 45-minute drive from each other, which is certainly doable, but you know, trying to go back and forth like that every day on top of work, and we worked in opposite directions as well. So those are the only concerns I have had at this point, because I really looked at it as dating as the opportunity to get to know each other. And if we continued to get to know each other and we liked it, we would keep the dating relationship going. And if something came up and we said this isn't really going to be the person for me, then I knew it was going to be time to end the relationship on my side and move on from there. So I wasn't too concerned about stuff. What about you?
Well, my big concern, I had three concerns. The first one was the age difference. The fact that I'm a little, by 2 months older. I know it's only 2 months, but in my head it's like, no, I was like, is that, no, I mean, I had to do some praying about it because it's something that I was not comfortable with. The fact that he was 2 months younger than me. I mean, it's just 2 months, I know, but in my head it was not a good thing. But then the fact that also that I was not from a different culture. Is he gonna be accepted? Is he gonna accept my my African culture and what comes with it? It's important for me. So was he gonna be open-minded about that? He had to, if he wanted to be with me. And then the third thing was the fact that I was not a U.S. citizen at the time. I was on a student visa, and there are so many rules and regulations for international students. And I didn't know if he thought that I would just hang out or get married for the green card. So that was the three major obstacles, or maybe three major issues that I was facing at the time.
Well, I know for me, what made me want to pursue the relationship is what we talked about earlier, is the fact that every step of the way felt very natural. Just had that longing desire to, I want to get to know more. You know, you told me about what it was like to live on the 3 continents. Well, tell me more. You know, what did you do for fun, and what was school like? That sort of thing, as a small example. And that just was really intriguing. And then just seeing everything that she said in our profile and the emails, our phone conversations, just really coming to life, and seeing that that's really who she was. It's funny that we grew up on separate continents. We're worlds apart from each other, but our backgrounds are so similar. We come from very large families that are extremely close and family oriented. We come from families that gone through adoptions or taking in other kids that were really not biologically our parents. And so that was just really intriguing in and of itself, to find another family that was similar to mine in that way. and just the strong Christian background that our parents were Christians, and church was important, and God was absolutely number one in our family lives. And then for each of us personally, God was first and foremost, and we really put that out there in our profiles and when we were speaking. And so all of that was just really clear. And again, as we started to really speak and get to know each other over the phone and email, it just really started to come to life. And we just knew I wanted more.
Well, what made me want to pursue the relationship is the fact that when we started talking, he kind of described to me his family dynamic, and that's something that we kind of gonna go into more detail in the future. And so when he described that to me, I was like, this man would understand where I'm coming from because of his family background. So that was one thing that was major for me, because of the fact that I'm of a African background, and his family dynamic kind of resemble where I'm coming from. He wouldn't have any issues with accepting me and my culture. So that was a big check mark. And so that's why I decided to pursue and see where things would go from there. Meeting in person was really great. It was exactly he was exactly the same guy that I've been talking to. The picture matched the person, because I'm sure you guys have heard of stories with people who meet on online and decide to meet in person, and it's day and night, it's different person. But when I met him, he was exactly the same guy that I've been talking to, the same guy that that I've seen pictures. So that was reassuring. He didn't lie on his profile. The picture were his, so I was very impressed and very happy. The way that he described himself, it was that he didn't use old pictures. It was more recent pictures, and it was great.
Yeah, and it was the same for me. It's absolutely amazing. I mean, as you can see, Daisy's absolutely gorgeous. So watching her walk through the door was wonderful, and I would say the same exact thing. Is she really matched her profile, physically speaking, with the pictures and everything. She wasn't trying to look different than she really was, but then on top of that, she just really presented herself the way that she spoke and emailed over our time. She was really great. Obviously, we ended up being married, so things went well somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was absolutely great. And again, our first date is just too much to put into just a few sentences, so that's going to be its own episode if you stay tuned.
Yeah.